And today what we're going to do is talk about the Global Change Fellows Program. So this is an informational webinar. The call for fellows has gone out. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the CCASC itself, as well as about the fellows call. We'll then have some best practices for application development. And then we're here to answer questions for you. And so I'd also like to introduce to you on the call, Carrie Furness. Do you want to introduce yourself, Carrie?
Hey everybody. Yeah, thanks for your interest in this program. And I am the Assistant Consortium Director here at of the CCASC here at North Carolina State University. So.
And Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Jewell. I'm the Communications and Engagement Manager for the Southeast Climate Adaptation Science Center. Thanks, Becky.
Great. All right, so let's take it away. So as I said, first of all, we'll have an introduction to the Climate Adaptation Science Center system or network. We'll then talk a little bit about the Global Change Fellows program. We'll have an overview, then best practices for applications, and then we're here to answer your questions. I have a slide or two that's frequently asked questions to get the ball rolling, but then we can just open it up for broad questions as well. So first of all, an introduction to the CASCs. So the Climate Adaptation Science Centers, we call the CASCs. And so the mission of the CASC network is to deliver science to help fish, wildlife, ecosystems, including plants, cultural resources, and people adapt to a changing climate, as well as changes in land use. And so the CCASC focuses on exposures, so climate exposures. You can think about that within the context of physical sciences, climate impacts, and so especially thinking about that within the context of natural and social sciences. But ultimately, we want to get to climate adaptation. So how can we help our ecosystems adapt to that changing climate? So we work very closely with managers, so state, federal, and tribal nation managers to help them help their ecosystems adapt to a changing climate and land use. We collaborate with tribes and indigenous communities to help prepare them for climate risks and climate change. And then you're all here today because we support the next generation of scientists and graduate students and postdocs in their research. So the ways in which we address these activities or these bubbles on the left is based on some of our programming on the right. So we have a Global Change Fellows program, which funds graduate student researchers, which we're going to talk about today. But also, just to give you a broader understanding, we fund working groups. We fund capacity building and assistance with state and federal managers and tribal nation managers. And we also plan, fund, and produce science. And then we communicate that science back to end users. So our goal is to produce actionable science, so science that's going to be usable and used. So as I mentioned, we are a federal tribal university partnership. So this means that we have formal collaboration with federal, tribal, and university partners. USGS staff leads strategic science planning. So our federal partnership leads that science planning. And then the university side serves as the scientific body that can help enact that scientific plan and produce the scientists that managers need. We have tribal climate liaisons, and they connect the CASC systems to tribal nations. They help develop those tribal priorities, their needs, and then what they need with respect to data, tools, expertise. And then as university partners, as I said, we also provide capacity building and training the next generation of climate adaptation professionals. And so hopefully some of you on this call will be that next generation. And so to give you a broad overview of the entire network, the CASC network was developed or started in 2008 when it was given funding from Congress. And there are 9 regional CASCs and the national CASC as well, making 10 total. And so just to let you know, we are part of a broader network. And so as a potential global change fellow, you would have an opportunity not only to network within our region, but also across the nation too. So here we are in light blue down on the right in the southeast. And so let's zoom in. And so our footprint for the Southeast spans from Arkansas to the US Caribbean, so including Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands, and then from North Carolina down to Florida. We have a number of consortium institutions within the CCASC, and so just to call them out, North Carolina State University serves as the host of the CCASC. In addition, we have consortium members at Duke University, University of Tennessee at Knoxville, United South and Eastern Tribes, so that's an intertribal organization, University of Arkansas at Monticello, Auburn University, University of South Carolina, Savannah State University, University of Florida, University of Puerto Rico at Rio Piedras, and the University of Virgin Islands. And so I bring up all of these universities and that all of the students who are at each of these universities are eligible to apply for the Global Change Fellowship that we'll talk about in a moment. In addition, students who are part of a tribal nation that's part of USET within the Southeast are also eligible to apply. And again, we'll talk about that. So just so you have a sense of how the funding for the CCASC works and who's involved, as I said, this is a partnership with the federal government, and so it is funded by the U.S. Geological Survey. And so the U.S. Geological Survey, through a competitive cooperative agreement, funds the Southeast Climate Adaptation Science Center. Our center, as you just saw, is made up of multiple universities and organizations or institutions. So that's this teal color here. Within each of these institutions, there are research affiliates. And so many of your mentors may be research affiliates, or hopefully are research affiliates. We'll talk about that in a moment, within the CCASC. And then these research affiliates can mentor global change fellows. And so these are graduate students who are in their labs, and you as graduate students can apply for this fellowship experience. Okay, so that's a broad overview of the CASC system and what the mission is. Now let's talk specifically about the Global Change Fellows Program. So just so you know, there is funding that comes in to the CCASC through USGS. There's also funding that comes to CCASC through our host award. So we have written a competitive host award, and that host award funds the consortium institutions and organizations and research affiliates within the CCASC, and it also funds our Global Change Research Fellows Program. So this year, we have 13 fellows who are part of the Global Change Research Fellows. They span across the natural, physical, and social sciences, as well as the humanities and other types of social political sciences too. And so this is a very interdisciplinary cohort, and the cohort includes many of our consortium institutions. So not only North Carolina State University, but we have fellows who are part of the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, Auburn University, University of the Virgin Islands, and University of Florida this year. Our goal is to try and get every single consortium institution represented by a Global Change Fellow. Okay, so an overview of the program. Each year, our cohort of fellows is approximately 10 to 14 students. It varies a little bit from year to year based on the funding that we have available. Students can be current or incoming master's or PhD level students. So you can be a master's student or a PhD student. You're equally eligible for the program. For master's students, we're looking for students who primarily are doing thesis-based master's degrees. However, if you are in a graduate program that has some other penultimate type degree, we would consider that as well. In terms of eligibility, any students who are at a CCASC consortium university are eligible to apply, and I just listed those universities. In addition, students who are citizens of a USET tribal member nation in the Southeast are also eligible to apply. If you are a student who is a member of USET and a Southeastern tribal nation, you don't have to go to a consortium university to apply for this fellowship. You just have to be a member of USET. And I can answer more questions about that later if there's questions that come up. Every year, we fund approximately 4 to 5 graduate students from consortium institutions, and those students have to be advised by a research affiliate. And you can check online to see if your mentor is a research affiliate. If they are not, don't worry. It's a very quick process, and you can show them what to do later and how they can apply. In addition, we fund 5 to 10 graduate students to be fellows from North Carolina State University. Again, they also have to be advised by a research affiliate. You will note that there are more graduate students at NC State than at consortium institutions, and that is because NC State also provides matching fellowships 1-for-1. So we only have approximately 4 to 5 fellowships funded through the Host Award for NC State, and they match each of those fellowships with a Provost Fellowship. In addition, in some years, we have a graduate student that's funded by the NOAA CAP RISA, so the Carolina Collaborative for Health and the Environment, that's headed by Kathy Dello. And so again, some years we have a student who is funded by that alternative program, but they participate as a Global Change Research Fellow as well. So again, eligibility. Students who are enrolled in or who are a new and incoming student to a master's or PhD level program at any of our consortium institutions are eligible to apply. Again, here are our consortium institutions. Make sure yours is represented. Or if you are a citizen of a USET member tribal nation in the Southeast, you are also eligible to apply. And so again, you don't have to go to one of our consortium institutions if you are a USET member, but you do have to be a tribal nation USET member in that case. Okay. And then preference will be given to students who are earlier in their degree programs. So for master's students, students who are in their first 1 or 2 years of their program. For PhD level students, students who are in their 1st to 4th year. The reason why we usually prefer students who are earlier in their degrees is that we provide training, which we'll talk about in a moment. And hopefully that training is going to benefit your degree and your research program, and then also your career trajectory. It doesn't mean that students who are in their 5th year of a PhD program wouldn't benefit from this, but at that point, those students we've found are usually really busy writing up their dissertations, and so this training program just isn't a good fit at that point in their career. If you are a 5th level PhD level student and you want to apply, we won't stop you from applying, but you really need to convince us how this fellowship will benefit you in your last year of your degree program. Okay, so some of the benefits of the Global Change Research Fellows Program. First of all, it is a fellowship program, which means that you receive tuition, health insurance, and a stipend. So the tuition will be for the 25-26 academic year, so the whole year. You will receive health insurance for that whole year, and then you will receive a 12-month research assistantship. And so your fellowship is coded as a research assistantship. It will begin on August 1st, 2025, and run for that 12-month period. So it would end July 31st of 26. Some of the other benefits you get with this program, you will receive skill building and professional development training, and we'll talk about what some of that skill building is in a moment. There's opportunities for travel support. So you get to do a team science project that we'll talk about in a moment. You might get to travel to a conference or workshop associated with that team science project. In addition, as part of your training, we run a 1-week field class called the Climate Adaptation Field Intensive. And so you'll receive travel support to get to that field intensive. Right now, the plan for 25-26 is that the field intensive will be in January of 2026 in the US Caribbean. In addition, you get CASC-specific fellowship and training opportunities. You get to connect with the National CASC network. There's oftentimes many different types of opportunities to connect at the national level. And then once your fellowship period is ended, we're one big family, and so you don't have to leave the family. Instead, there's continued opportunities for interaction with the CCASC as you move forward in your degree program and even after your degree program has ended. So here are some examples of some of the training opportunities and learning outcomes that you'll have as a Global Change Fellow. So some of these skills building workshops will be in a bi-weekly course. Some will be part of our 1-week field intensive. So for example, you'll receive training in team science, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but I'll just pull out a few. We do a training in downscaled climate modeling, so you understand how that works. We also do 2 trainings at the field intensive associated with how to use climate models in your research. We do trainings in data visualization and science communication, environmental justice. We also do, at the end of your fellowship period, a career panel as well. So you can try and understand not only what careers are available in academia, but what careers are available in state government and federal government as well, and NGOs. So the requirements of the fellowship, it's a 12-month commitment. During that 12-month commitment, you need to maintain full-time enrollment. So whatever that means at your institution, however many credits you need to take to be full-time enrolled, you need to take that number of credits in fall and spring semester. And you must maintain good academic standing. Again, whatever that means at your institution. During that 12-month commitment, you are going to be conducting your own dissertation research. And so you can think of this fellowship opportunity as an add-on experience that's going to enhance your dissertation research and enhance the training that you're receiving in your graduate program. And it should also enhance the research that you are doing with your mentor. During that 12-month period, you will contribute as part of a team to a CCASC team science synthesis project. And so in the RFP, or in the call for fellows that came out, you will notice that there were themes for the team science synthesis projects. Those themes, which I'll show in a moment, came from various priorities that state and federal managers have indicated they want synthesis of existing data done. You'll need to attend the week-long Climate Adaptation Science Retreat and Field Intensive. And as I said, the plan for that is that it'll be in January of 26. And hopefully we can do it early enough in January that you'll miss a minimum amount of class at your home institution. All Global Change Fellows organize 2 seminars as part of the Global Change Seminar Series. So 1 seminar in the fall and 1 seminar in the spring. You would be on 1 seminar planning committee, either for fall or spring. And we let fellows choose to a certain extent. And then you will participate in weekly cohort building meetings and skill building workshops. And so those are required, and they will be on Tuesdays in fall and spring semester from 10:15 to 11:30. So if you know that's not going to work in your schedule for next year, you might want to consider delaying and applying in a future year when it will work in your schedule. But we need you at those skill building workshops, because that's when you receive your training for this fellowship. Okay, so themes for the Team Science Synthesis Project. So when you apply to be a Global Change Fellow, when you look at the statement of interest, which we'll talk about in a moment, part of the statement asks you to rank the themes that you are most interested in participating in. Okay, and so we have 4 themes that you can rank this year. The first is climate impacts on and adaptation for pollinating insects. The second theme is focused on the U.S. Caribbean, so mapping futures in the U.S. Caribbean, looking at climate adaptation for biodiversity conservation and human well-being. The third theme is risks and impacts of compound or extreme flooding events. And the fourth theme is invasive species, so the impacts of climate change on invasive species. Okay, so you might be saying right now, I don't work on anything related to any of these 4 themes. That is okay. So what we are looking for are students who have broad skills. So maybe you are a natural scientist and you have great quantitative analysis skills, or maybe you are a social scientist and you have really good qualitative analysis skills. Rank the themes and tell us why you picked your or why you ranked them in the order that you did. And then tell us the skills that you have that you're going to bring to that team science project. Each team science project will have anywhere from 3 to 6 students participating. Sometimes we don't end up running all of the themes based on, student interests. And each theme also will have a mentor. It'll either be a postdoc or a faculty member leading the students in that theme. Each of the themes will have products at the end, and the products will vary based on what the theme is. Maybe it'll be a public peer-reviewed publication, like some sort of review paper. Maybe it will be a white paper. Maybe it will be some sort of data analysis or visualization, a web tool, maybe an annotated bibliography, whatever is most relevant product based on manager needs for that theme. And again, the mentor of each theme will help lead the graduate students who are participating through various types of products and needs. Okay, so our selection process for Global Change Research Fellows, we are really interested in students who want an interdisciplinary training experience, right? So we are looking for students across all types of disciplines, not just the natural sciences or physical sciences, also the social sciences, the humanities, education, engineering. All of those disciplines are relevant to be a Global Change Research Fellow, and we really look for a cohort who spans across that, all of those disciplines. So we want you to have an interdisciplinary experience and interdisciplinary training opportunities. The research that you do as part of your dissertation research needs to be broadly related to the CCASC mission. So again, our mission is to deliver science to help fish, wildlife, ecosystems, and people adapt to a changing climate and land use. So say, for example, you work in agriculture. In general, a USGS and a CCASC does not fund agricultural projects. However, if you are working in agriculture, but your interest is in, biodiversity conservation, in, habitat margins around agricultural fields, that would be relevant. But if your final response variable is something related to a crop, that's not something the CCASC funds. Instead, we can put you in contact with the USDA climate hubs, and they conduct research that's crop related for climate adaptation. In addition, we do not fund deep ocean work. That is more within the realm of NOAA. And again, we can put you in contact with researchers who do that type of work instead. So please ask if you have any questions during the Q&A about types of research that we fund. But again, your research as part of your dissertation just needs to be broadly relevant to the CCASC mission. We look for students who have strong academic potential. We look for students who either have personal experiences or research experiences or insights that contribute to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And students who are part of tribal nations and indigenous cultures. In addition, all Global Change Research Fellows must be advised by a research affiliate. So you will need to ask your advisor, or you will need to search through the research affiliates database that's online, and Carrie or Michelle can put that link in the chat so you can make sure that your mentor is a research affiliate. If not, they can apply. Okay, so best practices for applications. Hopefully everyone has read through the template that you need to write for the research part of the application, so your research interests, but let's talk specifically about things that we look for. So first of all, you need that statement of interest. I called it the research part, but it's your statement of interest. You need to format it according to the directions that are provided in the template. There are 5 bullet points that are listed. We really encourage you to make sure you hit all 5 bullet points. And in fact, if you can make subsections that relate to each of those bullet points within your statement, that is much easier for reviewers to read. You need to have a curriculum vitae, so a CV, that you submit, 2 pages maximum. I'll talk about that in a moment, various templates you can use. We need a copy of your unofficial transcript. So you should be able to go online and just download something that's unofficial from your university. Don't send us official transcripts. They're really complicated for you to send. Just send us an unofficial one. If you're even having trouble doing that, just take a screenshot on your computer. That's fine too, and just send us that. But again, we just need some sort of unofficial transcript to look at the classes you've taken, how you're doing academically, and then kind of what your type of training is. We need the name and contact information for the research affiliate. So for your mentor who will be submitting a confidential letter of recommendation. And then all letters of recommendation need to be uploaded into a separate Google form. And we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the letter of recommendation and your application are due by January 6th, 2025. So you have about a month left to submit that. Okay, so best practices for statements of interest. Again, everyone has their individual flair for how they write things, and that is great. But first of all, we really want you to clearly articulate how your research and how your career goals relate to the CCASC mission and science priorities. So as I mentioned, the CCASC is funded by the Department of Interior, so by USGS, and your research needs to be broadly relevant to Department of Interior lands, and in addition to the CCASC mission. If you work with a management community or an agency in your research, we really recommend highlighting those relationships and how they've influenced your research. So the CCASC does co-produced science. And so you will receive training in co-production, which means scientists and managers working closely together to develop the research questions, to develop the research approaches, and to develop the final products that are usable and used by end users. So again, if you have experience working with management community, we really encourage you to highlight that. If you don't have that experience, maybe highlight in your research statement why that could be important for your research. Okay. We ask you to provide a prioritized list of the themes for those team science synthesis projects that you're most interested in participating in. We ask you to detail why you prioritize them in the way you did and the skills you bring to your preferred project choice. Again, those projects don't have to be things that you know a lot about, but maybe they're things you're really interested in researching or synthesizing more, and that's okay. But again, we want to see that list, why you have the list the way it is, and then the skills you bring. You need to provide evidence that shows that you're intellectually curious. So again, we are an interdisciplinary program. And so our goal is to give you opportunities to be trained in a variety of different perspectives. And so students who are intellectually curious tend to do really well and really enjoy their CCASC Global Change Research Fellows experience. Again, because of that interdisciplinarity. So show us in this research statement, give us some evidence that you are intellectually curious. The CCASC values diversity in thought and practice. And we really strive to make climate adaptation more just and equitable. And so to your best of your ability, provide evidence of personal or professional activities related to diversity in thought and practice, to climate justice, to environmental justice. And finally, as I mentioned before, it is really helpful for us if you organize your statement into sections that's based on the information requested, right? Because we're reviewing a lot of these. And so having those sections immediately available when we're discussing as a review committee is really helpful for us. How to prepare your CV. I think a lot of you probably have CVs already, and they're significantly longer than 2 pages. So you're going to have to pare it down. We've provided in the research or in the application materials a link as an example of tips to developing a CV. Or if you already have a CV that's produced, by the NSF online science CV format, you can submit that instead. Again, whatever you have available, but if you don't have one or if yours is too long, this little tips and samples web link is really helpful. Again, your advisor must be a CCASC research affiliate. So you can go online and check to see if they're an affiliate, or just go ask them. Their research needs to broadly align with the CCASC mission, and they need to be located at a consortium institution. There's a little web link that they'll submit. It's pretty minimal. It's not a lot of work on their part, and we review them really quickly. So don't worry. If your advisor is not currently an affiliate, have them apply today so that you can apply for this fellowship opportunity. Your advisor will need to write you a letter of recommendation. We've provided guidelines to your advisor, so you should send that to them. That gives helpful tips for what the review committee is looking for. But encourage them not to write a generic letter. So I'm sure they've written you letters of recommendation before. Those letters may not work as well for this fellowship opportunity. Again, this is an interdisciplinary fellowship opportunity. We want to hear from them that you are interested in this interdisciplinary experience and this add-on training experience. And we want to hear from them that your research is closely aligned with the CCASC mission. So again, a generic letter probably won't work. From your advisor's perspective, we want to know how this opportunity will benefit your research and your career trajectory. Make sure your advisor outlines your funding plan. So if you have this fellowship, what's your funding plan for the subsequent years until you complete your degree? What we don't want is for a student to have a fellowship and then have no funding afterwards. So they must have a funding plan for you. That is okay if that is a mixture of TA-ship, RA-ship, other types of funding. There just has to be a plan. And finally, encourage your advisor to submit letters of recommendation by January 6th, the same day that your fellowship application is due. So again, the timeline, the request for applications is now open. I'm sure you've seen it since you're here today. And again, you can use this QR code to grab it as well if you haven't read through it. You need to write that statement of interest. That will be 2 pages maximum. You need your CV. You need to indicate, which team science synthesis project you're interested in. And then also you need to make sure your mentor writes that letter of recommendation. If they are not a research affiliate, have them apply to be one right away. Applications are due January 6th. We will not accept late applications, in part because we are trying to make selections no later than February 15th. And so we need time to review all of the applications, send out invitations to our program. And then, sometimes students decide that they can't participate. And so we need time to make sure that alternatives can be contacted. And then as a reminder, the term for this fellowship is from August 1st, 2025 to July 31st, 2026.